be calling you out. So please keep track of time. So that would be really great. Also, stick to the question. Many times our candidates have the kind of overzealous attitude of talking much beyond a question. So I hope we can have our mayoral candidates to stick to the question. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. LCC Media has been around for 5 years. It's been a magazine which is focusing on supporting women in Edmonton of different multicultural communities. At this point, because of an election which will affect every single citizen within Edmonton, that is the reason why we wanted to, come face to face with all of you and get to know you. So we are here today, and I'm going to give the opportunity to Mr. Sohi to start this off. Mr. Sohi, can you introduce yourself?
Well, first of all, Mary and T, thank you so much for putting this forum together. I want to start by acknowledging that we are speaking to each other from a traditional Treaty 6 territory. And that acknowledgement is much, much more meaningful for me than just ceremonial because I came to this city with nothing. I moved here as a young man, and my wife moved here a few years later. And both of us, despite our early challenges of racism, discrimination, and bullying, this is a city that has propelled us, that has lifted us up to live up to our fullest potential. So I really want to acknowledge that I would not have been able to succeed had I not been able to be on this land, this indigenous land, and those who came after the indigenous communities. Some of you know me as your community member, a league member, or a member of Millwoods Crime Council, where we work together to improve safety and well-being in the city. Some of you know me as your city councilor. We work together on large number of projects, including expanding the LRT from one corner of the city to the other, or working on multiculturalism, anti-racism work, or improving services and access to services throughout our city. Some of you know me as your member of parliament or a minister responsible for two major economic portfolios, managing billions of dollars to help grow our economy, create jobs throughout the country, particularly here in Edmonton, and the work we did together to expand the Yellowhead Expansion Freeway. If you drive there, you will see the construction that will help improve the flow of goods and services at the same time creating jobs. If you drive around, to the west end, you will see construction on many other projects. So if you went to Fort and Menton Park to experience the beautiful indigenous pavilion, I was involved in that, securing federal funding. Or if
Thank you,
you are
Mr. Sohi.
libraries, so thank you so much. I really appreciate and look forward to our conversation.
Thank you. Let's proceed. We are going to have Brian Gregg introduce himself. Brian, can you please unmute yourself?
Thank you very much, Mary and T, for organizing this, and for all the other candidates for joining in. This is my first chance to really have a discussion with you. I was born at the Royal Alec. I've lived here all my life. I've been very fortunate to have had a moderately good education, and I got to pursue my career in music. And although the music industry in Edmonton is a boom and bust industry, just like the oil industry. So in the bust times, I've worked at all different kinds of work, and I feel that's something that I bring to the office of the mayor, is that I have experience working in the public sector, the private sector. I've experienced out doing precarious work, teaching. It goes on and on. I was a stay-at-home dad, so I know what childcare is about. from a practical point of view. So anyway, I decided to step up when Don Iveson stepped down, because I felt there was a vacuum there, and I felt it was time to have a different kind of mayor in our city. And I wanted to try to get big money out of politics. So I have a very innovative approach. I think I'm not taking donations like the rest of the candidates. I'm not spending a lot of money on advertising, and I'm reaching out and trying to track the votes of the 68% of the voters who didn't vote last time. So anyway, that's me, and I'm looking forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian, for sharing your side of the story. I'm going to ask, I can't really see your names. Mr. Oshry.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, thank you. Do you want to let one of the women go next? I'm happy to wait my turn.
No, you are next. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for organizing this, and thank you for having me. I very much appreciate the opportunity. I'll just be quite quick, quite brief. I'll tell a little bit about myself. So I was born in South Africa, and I moved here when I was a child. My father, who's a lawyer, had to go back to law school for a few years when we moved here, and our family started all over again, and really have appreciated what Edmonton's done for us and for our family. My father also, he was a lawyer in South Africa and defended people charged under the apartheid regime. And that's instilled in me quite a heavy social conscience, I'll say. When I, after a typical upbringing in Edmonton, I'll say, we've been very fortunate, and I started a couple of businesses, Remedy Cafe that some of you might know, and then another financial services company that's head office still in Edmonton. I've got about 100 people working for me. So I spent the majority of my career in the private sector. I understand small and medium and large businesses and what it takes to do that. And I've spent a big chunk of my career creating jobs, which I'm very proud of, and have a lot of people at our head office in Edmonton and other cities around the world that work for me. And, I've been very fortunate that way. And again, spent lots of time trying to let other people succeed while I've succeeded as well. I was elected to city council in 2013, so I do have a 4-year. I like to say a 4-year university degree in city politics and city administration and how the city works. And while I was there, I really pushed to do some good work in trying to get the private sector to succeed by creating the Edmonton Made initiative, which really focuses on local entrepreneurs. And really helps people, start business and promoting local jobs and local procurement. And I'm, a big advocate of infilling the city. And really, at the end of the day, I really want to make sure that everybody here in the city has the same opportunity to succeed that I was fortunate enough to have as well. And so I'm going to be spending a lot of time talking about that in the weeks ahead. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That was perfectly on point. We'll proceed to Cheryl Watson.
Hello, good evening. And Amarjeet, thanks for doing the land acknowledgement at the beginning. So appreciate that. It's really important. And I know many of us have been educating ourselves as well and immersing ourselves in really the past and origin of our land. So thanks for doing that on behalf of us. My name is Cheryl Watson, and I was born and raised in this city. I grew up on the north side in the community of Beverly. And so I have had throughout my life just really a rich and deep relationship with this city, and I love Edmonton. And so that's why I'm doing this. Really, it's out of this love and out of this full lifetime of experience of our city that I really want to step forward now and represent all Edmontonians, both from an everyday Edmontonian perspective, but from a business leader's perspective, from a mother's perspective, from a daughter's perspective, and really that's the viewpoint that I want to bring. So my career background really was created out of opportunity and really a lot of people helping me along the way. I've spent 20 years of my life working for very large, complex Fortune 500 type organizations, primarily in the technology space. And then in 2015, I was given the very difficult decision of leaving this city to continue my career trajectory or staying in Edmonton. And so for me, it was a very easy choice to remain in this city. But I really wanted to do something to contribute positively to our future. And so I went to work for Edmonton Economic Development Corporation, really focused on creating the best possible environment here in our city for the businesses and communities that are being created here to be successful. I founded a division called Innovate Edmonton, now our city's newest economic development agency. And at the completion of that work, really had this ability to reflect on the importance of public service, because those 4 years I worked directly with the leaders of our city and with city administration. And so I bring a really deep understanding and respect for public service. And now at this point in my life, I want to give back to my city in the same way that the city has given to me my entire life. So there's why I'm doing this.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. Let's hear from Diana.
Thank you, Mary and T, and thank you to the Ladies' Corner for hosting us this evening. I also echo Mr. Sohi's Treaty 6 recognition, so thank you for that. I am so pleased to have been invited to speak with you today. My name is Diana Steele, and I am hoping to be elected Mayor of Edmonton on October 18th. I have a Bachelor of Education degree, a Master's degree in Work Organization and Leadership, and a certificate in Organization Development Foundations from Queen's University. I worked at Northwest College for almost 10 years, where I taught business courses, and then I moved over to the Government of Alberta, where I developed senior leadership policies for our deputy ministers. And currently, I work for the Pilgrims Hospice Society. I have been the president of Crestwood Community League for the past 6 years, where I have been on the ground every day, listening to the needs of Edmonton's citizens. This is where I discovered my love for community volunteerism and servant leadership. Servant leaders are the types of leaders we should be looking for in all politicians. Those who listen, understand, and empathize with others, and who put our city first over their own ambitions. The servant leader understands the importance of keeping people here in our city to dream bigger dreams. We need a compassionate, consistent, measured, and transparent leader who can rally a 1 million person team to make our city the best in the world, and I know I am that leader. My top priorities are focused around building a strong and thriving city, which encompasses ending homelessness and building mental health supports, supporting families in whatever form you define as a family, and ensuring we have a strong and thriving economy. Thank you.
Thanks. Diana, you had a little more time, but you had such a concise note. Thank you so much for that. Tim, you are next. Can you unmute yourself?
I couldn't hear. Did you call on me?
Yes.
Okay. The internet isn't great. First of all, thank you for the acknowledgement that we're on Indigenous territory. I think that that is important. And thank you for hosting this event. And I want to thank all my mayoral candidates for attending. I believe our city is at a pivotal point in time. And I believe our next mayor will need to hit the ground running, have a real understanding of how our city works in order to affect change, and an appreciation for what it's like to be an entrepreneur and run a business. And I have that experience. I spent nearly 2 decades in municipal government and the last 8 years launching 2 successful technology companies. I'm returning to politics because I care about Edmonton and our collective future. Since launching my campaign, I have been listening to Edmontonians and building my plan for our city based on 4 core pillars: a vibrant and connected city, economic recovery and economic growth, core services and maintenance with a focus on customer service, and supports for our most vulnerable. But let's be real. No platform can anticipate everything that our city and council will face over the next 4 years, and nor should it. So I think what voters need to know is what you can expect from me if I'm elected as your mayor. In short, I bring a balanced and bold approach. I am one of Edmonton's biggest fans, and I'm willing to get out there and create opportunities for our city. I'm not afraid to ask the tough questions, and I have a track record of getting things done for Edmonton. And as a leader, I believe in collaboration and would work with City Council, administration, our business and not-for-profit sectors, as well as whatever level of government, no matter their political stripe, to get wins for Edmonton. Change is coming, and it can be scary, but it also offers opportunities if we have a leader with the courage and know-how to empower all of us to seize them. I am that leader, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Wow, thanks, Kim. That was awesome.
Thank you.
So now we have Rick. Rick, can you please give us your introduction? I suspect his internet is not very good. Can you hear me, Rick?
I can, but I think we're having technology issues, so.
Yeah.
Well.
We can hear you too. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
And I would, yes, we can hear you. I would request Malik to please mute himself.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Rick, you're muting yourself, so we won't be able to hear you if you do that. Kindly unmute yourself. You're muted now, Rick. All right. So I guess we will just move on to Mr. Malik. Can I have Mr. Malik unmute himself? And please, we are looking forward to hearing your introduction.
Hello, you guys can hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. What did you say?
We can hear you. You can go ahead.
Well, my name is Malik Chuwudi. I'm 6 years veteran of Canadian Forces. I served in Bosnia and Afghanistan and got my first degree in geological engineering. I worked for one of the third largest oil producing countries in the world. I worked in the United States. I worked all over the Middle East, and I became a country manager for an oil company in the Middle East for 7 years. When the oil price dropped, I came home and went back to university and got my master's degree in civil engineering. Then I joined the city of Edmonton. And in the city is where I finally understood how things work to the government, and I was very frustrated. Everything takes time, so many red tapes. So, and when you speak up, and you pay a huge price for speaking up, especially for business, infrastructure, everything is 4, 5, 6 years behind of everything. So, and I realized I can't go against, the powers that be. I couldn't go against the city managers, the director, city of Edmonton. So I decided to run for office. It's the corruption, the spending, and I've traveled all over the world. I don't know if there's any country I haven't been to. All of Europe, either for work or on holidays. When I come home, I want Edmonton. I want my own city. Born and raised here. My dad is from Louisville, Kentucky. And I grew up here. And I speak French, I speak Spanish, I speak Arabic, I speak my mother's tongue, which is Cree. So I just don't understand. I went to Enoch and spoke to Billy Morin, the chief there. I don't understand why we can't move forward, and I don't know what it is. Maybe you guys in the council could tell why we can't move forward as a city. But as far as I'm concerned, I have problems. I've read quite a little bit about Oshry, And I share his frustration with the city. And I have the same similar frustration and about the city as well. And especially downtown infrastructure to beautify the city, where we can attract investors here who could come here
We
and
can't hear
invest
you all of a sudden. Something's not okay with your audio.
and invest here in the
Yeah,
city, but we don't get that. So Calgary seems to be more of a city, of the capital of Alberta, than Edmonton. And if I never worked for the city, I probably would not understand. I mean, you live here, you knew this problem, but you can't really put a finger to what it is. But working for the city, where I sit in the meetings, I meet with the director of City of Edmonton, I meet with the union president, John Marvin, either with Chief of Police, Chief Dale, or the union, the president of the police union, Sergeant Michael Elliott. I come to understand some of the problems in the city, and I realized the only way I could make any change is to run for office.
Thank you so much, Malik.
Thank
I'm
you.
really quite impressed by your amazing background. We've lost two of our candidates who I was hoping to have introduce themselves. So, oh, finally, Rick is here. So I guess I can ask him to introduce himself. Hi, Rick. Can you hear me? Hello? Rick? Comrie.
Yes,
You hear me?
I can.
Okay.
Can you hear
We
me?
would like to hear your introduction, if possible.
Well, we've sure got a technology issue here, so it's unfortunate. My introduction is a local business owner. My family's journey began in Edmonton in the early 1900s. My great-grandparents were homesteaders just outside Edmonton, and they started doing business in the city of Edmonton. And at that point, they had 11 children, and the spin-off of those 11 children have created many success stories. And the success stories, though, sometimes success lies in the hands of the beholder, meaning success comes in different ways. My grandfather was a business owner. My dad was a business owner, and I'm a business owner. My two sons are business owners. Our family has continued in the Edmonton area, and we've decided, as I've gotten on in age, I'm 64 years of age, and I decided, I'm just so unhappy with the way the city of Edmonton has unfolded, that for me to do my part would be to get involved. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about how I feel. And I'd like the people in the community to understand that there's a formula to success, to a successful municipality, and it involves the recirculations of money to stay in the community. It's what we call trade and commerce. The downtown core and White Avenue are examples of a failed model that failed to rejuvenate the respected areas. We've become a dysfunctional city, eliminating jobs.
This is so sad. So yeah, I guess we will just have to move on. So I'm going to kind of shuffle people around so that I don't go exactly the same clockwise circle. So can I ask Cheryl Watson, what do you think, Cheryl, is the most important attributes for a mayor of a city like Edmonton?
Well, what's most important really is that the mayor of Edmonton represents the population of this city. And so we have a very, very diverse population here. And so it's up to the mayor really to be open to engaging with Edmontonians and representing Edmontonians' voice. But probably what's most important is collaboration. And so oftentimes I talk about the role of the mayor being a chief collaborator. And so the mayor's job is to make sure that, one, they create a very cohesive, collaborative council, and that we have a council that is able to build consensus so that we can move things forward collectively. And the second is that we have very important partners in other orders of government. And so our provincial government and our federal government partners, making sure that, again, we can find beneficial and positive relationships with these other orders of government. So chief collaborator.
That's awesome. I really like your answer, and I hope we can see that change when you come to office. Mike Oshry, what are the first things, your priorities when you get into this position as mayor of Edmonton? What are the main key priorities? What are you going to start working on?
Well, the first thing that I'm going to do is meet with all the city councilors that are elected and see what their priorities are, because they've spent a lot of time in the last few months listening to residents as well. And I want to make sure that we're all on a similar page and make sure that what I'm hearing is the same, is that what they're hearing. So that's number one. I would also meet with the city administration and lay out a plan that I think city council is going to want to have going forward for the next 4 years. So that's what I would do first. As far as the priorities go, we really have to deal with our economic realities. It's really the first time in a generation where there's a lot of uncertainty as to where our economic and our social successes are going to be coming from. And so we've got to really make some tough decisions. There's going to be some hard decisions. We can't say yes to everything. The city is in a financial tough spot, and the province is in a financial tough spot. And so we're going to have to deal with the economy, get people back working, get businesses up and running, get downtown back to some sort of vibrancy, which has obviously been lacking over the last little while. And then with those resources, we're going to have to help a lot of people. There's a lot of people. There's 1,000 more homeless people than there was a year ago. There's people living in poverty. There's just a variety of different people that we're going to have to help in a variety of different ways. And so we have to make sure that we have the economy in order to do that, to pay for that. And then we're going to have to help the people that need it. And so there's many different ways we're going to have to do that. We're going to have to provide services. We're going to have to spend some money. But again, I keep going back to the fact that there's going to be really tough decisions up ahead, and we're not going to be able to say yes to everything. And we need somebody there who's going to be able to make tough decisions, take some of the heat, but at the same time, do something good for the city and move the city forward. And I'm very much the type that I want to see people succeed. I'm happy to put people in positions where they're going to succeed. I don't need the credit. I just want to do the hard work to move the city forward and fix a lot of the challenges that we have behind us. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you, Mike. Now I'm going to ask Malik, what do you think is the best way to approach the opioid crisis that we are struggling with in the city of Edmonton? Over the last 2 years, it has just aggravated. So how do you think you can help change this?
Well, I've been following the opioid crisis quite closely, and unfortunately, Iverson says, well, there's nothing he could do about it since there's no funding. And Kenny hasn't given any money for the municipal government to actually do something about the opioid crisis. So I've spoken to Chief Dale, and I've spoken to the president of the police union about this issue. Now, police officers in the streets are actually the ones being called to go to all this opioid overdose. It is getting worse and worse all the time. So, I mean, I believe, I'm not sure what the problem here is, but I think most of our problem is just the will to do what is right. I'm not a politician. I'm not like any of these guys. They probably know how to wiggle in and out, and more straightforward, cut and dry. I don't know how to play games. When you were there, like being a country manager for the third largest oil company in the world, some of your decisions, the people's not going to like it, but you do what's best, what's morally right for the company. And that's what you should be bringing to the table. So I don't know, maybe the problem, maybe Iverson and Kenny couldn't speak, or Iverson couldn't talk to Justin Trudeau. I'm not sure why there's no funding to help out with this opioid crisis. Obviously, these guys in the street cannot get there's the ejection site has been shut down. They couldn't get any drugs from the ejection site, and they couldn't get drugs from pharmaceutical companies or wherever they're supposed to go get their drugs in the hospital, and they have to buy from drug dealers in the streets. And they overdose because those drug dealers there are not doctors, they're not pharmacists, they don't prescribe these drugs. But these guys had to depend on those drugs, and that's why things are bad. I think the problem is just having the sheer will to do what's right. We could talk pretty, we could say all the nice things, all good and dandy, theoretically is fine. It's just the same way the city works. Everything on the paper is good, but I'm the civil engineer on the street building the streets. I'm the one building the sidewalk, and I have my recommendations to the city. They don't like it. Well, I'm the enemy. If I speak up, they want to kick me out of the city of Edmonton. So I don't understand. I don't know how this thing works. Either Iverson couldn't talk to Kenny, or Iverson couldn't talk to Justin, but I'm sure they got $400 million for the LRT expansion, but they couldn't get money to open the safe injection site. So I don't know what is it. You could get money for
thank you, Malik.
LRT, but no, you couldn't get money for the opioid.
Yeah, so you're saying that once you secure funds, you will be able to deal with that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to Kim. There is a huge issue of homelessness, especially in the downtown area that you reside in. So what are the kind of things that can be done to mitigate this? Because it has grown over the last few years. So what are the kind of milestones we need to reach? How can we get there?
Well, I mean, I was on city council in the past when we started the 10-year plan to end homelessness, and I've had time to reflect on what's been working and what hasn't. And I think the challenge that we have is that we've been treating homelessness as if it's one homogeneous group, when in fact we have a number of different groups. So we have the hard to house that are addicted, which Malik was referring to. We have the hard to house that are trying to transition. We have students that are using food banks. We have, new immigrants who are also struggling. And so I think we need to first of all take
I think the internet is not doing well for everybody. I'm so glad at least a few people have a good internet system in their residences. So grateful for that. So let me move on to Diana. The other question that we really have to deal with, I can't say post-pandemic because the pandemic is still on us and we have not completely recovered from it, despite the fact that the province thinks that we are out of it. Sorry, Kim, we lost you in between. So I was going to give Diana a chance to speak, but you can continue.
Okay.
And then I will move on to Diana. Thank you.
No, and I understand we're having challenges with the internet. Just quickly, I think we need a collaborative approach and we need to get real results. So for example, having a standard bylaw for shelters so that they have minimum standards. We need to collaborate with agencies, and we need to also collaborate with the private sector and the not-for-profit sector on how we can provide housing, but also how we can provide jobs and opportunity for example, for the hard to house and transition. And we need to do things like community hubs, which is what's been successful so far, that's C5's approach, where they have been helping and feeding 2,000 families, working with TNT and the food bank, Edmonton Food Bank, as well as with Sobeys. And so I think that collectively we can actually get stuff done by working together and focusing on the data and what the data shows us in terms of what's having real results. And they are having real results, and I think that's a good approach.
Thanks so much, Kim. And sorry about all this trouble that you're having. Diana, the question that I was bringing to you was about, the pandemic not leaving us, and our economic recovery is something that we're still trying to get back on. So, what are the kind of things that you would put in place to help us with our economic recovery for the city of Edmonton?
Well, a lot of the things that Michael said, we need to review our spending, make sure that we're being responsible. We need to make sure that we have a fair and competitive taxation system for businesses. We understand that we are competing with towns like Leduc and Beaumont and Sherwood Park and St. Albert that are very close to Edmonton but could attract business. We want to make sure that we are looking for our Elon Musks in Edmonton who can promote out technology, and we need to also build a strong social infrastructure. We've got people who can work but can't because they can't afford childcare. So we need to make sure that our childcare is affordable and that they have an efficient transportation system so they can actually get to work. And we need to do some economic gardening. We need to grow from within. We've got excellently talented people here in Edmonton, but sometimes they can be hindered by our approval processes, or their ideas may be a little too far out in left field. Maybe someone hasn't taken the time to listen to them yet. And I am that person who wants to listen and hear all of those ideas.
Thank you, Diana. That was really beautiful. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask Brian Gregg. As a mayor of Edmonton, what do you think you would do to have meaningful communication with the people of the city? What are the different kinds of avenues you would use?
Well, I'm a big advocate of super overfunding our public libraries. I would like to see a branch of the library in every community, and as well as the community hubs that Kim Krushell was talking about. I think we need those kind of hubs in every community. We don't need just a few big warehouses in a few places in the city. We need to have like a 15-minute neighborhood everywhere, in every neighborhood, and not only 15 minutes to get to all the commercial services you need, but 15 minutes to get to the social services that people need. We should have a tiny homeless shelter in every community with 6 or 8 beds that are never full, and people are being transitioned immediately within a week into a Housing First program. We need to have like food services in every community. We need to have medical services, and 24/7. We should have, like, in these hubs, we should have like teams of 2 people, 3 8-hour shifts a day, and to manage shelter, food, education, and what's the other thing that we need? We need shelter, food, education. There's one more thing that we need. What is it that we need?
I'm not sure whether you really heard my question.
Okay.
It was about how will you open channels of communication with the citizens of Edmonton?
Well, I said through the library, through the libraries, we need to have like free gathering spaces where citizens can gather and talk about the issues that matter to us. Like right now, if we want to get together, we have to rent a community hall and pay a huge rental fee, insurance fee. In the summertime, and now with COVID, we can meet outside and gather and talk about things, but it's not that easy. We just don't. We need more public luxuries in our city, like parks, gathering places, services, and in every neighborhood. We just, like in my neighborhood, I live in Rossdale. All we have is a hall, that only rich people can rent, and that's what we have, So I think
when you become mayor, you will make it possible for the poor to access spaces. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we need places where we can meet and gather, where people can come and say, okay, should we be voting for Kim Krushell or Amarjeet Sohi or Michael Oshry? Like, what are they offering us? We don't have opportunities. Everybody's opportunity is to sit in their house and watch a TV.
All right. Thank you so much, Brian. Yeah. I am going to move on to Mr. Sohi. What do you think, Mr. Sohi? You've had some experience in council, and we've already seen you in that position. So you are already aware of how everything works and the bureaucracy. You know what happens there. So this time around, what are the kind of things you're going to do similarly or differently?
I believe that as a council collectively coming together and setting a very clear tone and giving a strong direction to city administration where we want this city to go, how we want to continue to progress. We need to focus on creating jobs, growing our economy. We need to focus on dealing with issues of homelessness, mental health, addiction, poverty that are interconnected and intersecting, that are hurting people, that are holding people back. We need to take a strong action on climate change. We cannot continue to ignore the impact of climate change on our communities. It's a crisis that we're facing as cities have a role to play. And the fourth thing is we need to deal with racism, inequities that exist in our city. So as a mayor, I will work with councillors to give that strong direction to the city administration. This is where this city needs to go. We need to focus on these intersecting, interconnected four pillars that will allow our community to succeed, that will allow Edmontonians to succeed, be part of this community, and be part of the opportunities that so many of us had in this city to grow and be part of it. I firmly believe that Edmonton has the potential to continue to be the best city in the world. What we need to do is tap into that potential and grow that potential in the petrochemical sector, in hydrogen sector, in pharmaceutical sector, in technology sector. And we need to find a better way of working with the provincial government and the federal government, building a community-based advocacy that really tells those two orders of government that when Edmonton is not living to the fullest potential, our economy will not thrive, our province will not thrive. So, as a mayor, I will use mayor's convening powers to pull community together to resolve those issues and put forward together a plan that is community led, community based, and driven by the community.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sohi. Very forward-thinking plan you have. I'm going to move on to Cheryl Watson. Cheryl, as you've seen, our council has not had parity in terms of gender or race for a long time. And within the city of Edmonton, too, there have been major issues of harassment and other issues that you've seen over the last many years. I know there is some changes happening, and I'm glad to see that. But how are you going to push for change to make Edmonton, as a city, a great workplace for everybody else to emulate?
Well, I really love that you asked this question. So that is one of the reasons why I'm stepping forward is we need more diversity in our leadership. And one of the topics that you raised is really how do we create a safe city for women and for girls, and how do we create a city that doesn't prevent this huge portion of the demographic from moving freely through our city, from contributing to society. So recently I announced a policy called Creating a Safe City for Women and Girls, and it builds on the UN Women's premise and a lot of proven practices that they've implemented all around the world. And so we need women. So these practices and the policy is not new, actually. This policy and many of the tactics were proposed a number of years ago. But when you have a leader in that seat that doesn't understand the day-to-day reality and importance of policies like these, they're not going to be implemented. And so, my walk to and from work, beginning of the day, end of night, looks much different than our current mayor's walk to work. I worry about who's behind me. I listen for footsteps. And so really you need someone that has experienced the city in this way to truly move this policy forward. So it's about women making these kinds of changes.
Wow, I like that. Mike Oshry, You are totally aware of the waste management plan that the city of Edmonton has unleashed, and you've probably been acquainted with the garbage bins that came out recently and the communication that came with it. What do you think could have been done in a better way?
Well, yeah, thank you for the question. Obviously, that's top of mind for many people because this is something that's been happening recently. You know, my concern is that the city of Edmonton has lost its way as far as dealing with core services. So some of them are sort of the boring things like garbage and mowing lawns and shoveling snow and that sort of thing. But that really is first and foremost what a municipal government should be providing. That is why we're in the business of being municipal government, is to provide services to our citizens. And over the last few years, we've lost our way, and we're trying to do a bunch of other things. And everybody's well-meaning, and they're trying to make an impact. But really, we have a pretty limited tax base. We only get 6 cents on the dollar that all of us pay taxes to all levels of government, and we only get about 6 cents of that. And with that, we have to do a whole bunch of work, and so we really have to pick and choose and unfortunately, say no to certain things and focus this city administration. So, you know, the rollout was done quite poorly. There's been lots of challenges, and for something that was this important, it just demonstrates of the lack of focus of the city administration currently. So I'm now optimistic, though, that, you know, we can get the bugs out and then we can adjust it. So one thing we have to be, and I am, is very flexible. Let's see how it goes. We've spent the money and the time. So if we have to adjust it and do the service different going forward, I'm all in favor, and we need to do that. You know, we've gone from, I would argue, a world leader in garbage and recycling to now we're at a place where Calgary is better than us at this. And that's just Calgary. Never mind other cities in North America or around the world. And so we've really lost our way, and we really need to get back to some of these services like garbage. Not very sexy, but it's pretty important. And so I think the city of Edmonton needs to do a lot better when it comes to a lot of these types of programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I used to live in Fort McMurray, and there was a ban on plastic bags, single-use plastic bags, which came up because one young student of grade 12 came and told the mayor the reasons why he thinks one single-use plastic bag should not be allowed. And, it was instant. It didn't even take 3 weeks for that to become a bylaw. And we were very surprised at the speed at which things used to happen there. Probably it's a smaller city and much easier to roll out things like that. But I have expectations coming in from a city like that where things really moved. So I would like to see that if you become the mayor, Mr. Oshry.
Yeah, I mean, we've been quite risk adverse in doing kind of these sorts of things at the administration, and we need to take a bit of risk and try new things.
Totally. Thank you so much. Mr. Malik, all the wards have been named with Dene and Cree names, and I think it's a great first step. But how else can we extend to, actually take charge of the Truth and Reconciliation report and actually make some of those things happen within our city?
Theoretically, it's all on the papers. Let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya. But to be honest, I work with the city of Edmonton. I mean, department of 200 employees, only 3 Black people work there. I'm not even talking about women. They don't even want women to work there. They say, oh, sexual harassment, we don't want them here. They say, oh, you grab them by their boobs. Next thing you know, you lose your jobs. But at the same time, we're sent to all these courses that we have to take to make sure that, can you imagine sending white folks, to take course so that they could work with a Black person, work with an Indigenous person, work with women, for God's sakes. Then they demonize white people or something that happened 150 years ago. Oh, your ancestors did to Indigenous people. Whatever it is Iverson is doing in that aspect, it was so wrong. You can't demonize white people and say, well, you guys took all the lands and did this to Indigenous people. It's horrible. And say, well, you guys are racist. You have to take this test. Actually, I was against the test that were the city of Edmonton mandated for every white person to take. And my boss had to send me home. He says, well, you're not a white person. You're not supposed to take the test. I said, well, A buddy of mine took that test, and the test, that computer just failed him and said he's a racist. I know damn well it's not a racist. Why will people take this test? This is horrible. I mean, either way we go about this, we're doing it so wrong. But we need to be honest and transparent. You know, when we talk the talk, we have to walk the walk. It's just as simple as that. Yeah, if there's going to be a quota, let there be a quota, either with the police department in hiring women and minorities and indigenous people to work with the city of Edmonton. If you look at the city trucks, vehicles driving around the city, you only see white people there. And my wife is white. I got nothing about white people. My own twin brother married a white woman. My younger brother married a white woman. I don't have a problem with that. It's just that when we say these things, we have to be real about it. You know, we have to be honest about it. My own boss at the city of Edmonton called me, Chuck Dickens, said, I hate Black people, but since you started working in this department, I don't know what it is. I like you, and I'm so sorry I have to apologize. Chuck has worked with the city for 42 years. He's still with the city of Edmonton, and I love him. He lives out in Devon, lives very close to my parents. I grew up in Devon. You know, so I don't understand what it is, but for whatever it was I was doing, made him to call me in his office and say, you know what, I'm sorry if I've, you know, all my life I've, you know, held this belief that Black people are lazy. They come here just to want to take the jobs. They don't want to work. They want to sit in the couch and smoke weed and all this stuff that he told me. I said, well, I'm glad you said all those things, and I'm glad to call you my own brother. So, wow. And I think, yes, and yes, he still works with the city. He's a friend of mine, and the city is trying to do everything to kick him out of the city of Edmonton. So, a city is just a toxic place to work. It's a horrible place to work. I'm frustrated with the city, and I share Oshry's frustration with the city as well. Something needs to be done from top to bottom, you know. But also, again, hiring women. When I joined my department, roadways and maintenance, as a civil engineer, there are about 12 women that were working there. Now there's 3. Oh, they've gotten rid of all the women that work there. Oh, she couldn't drive a truck. Well, she's a single mom with 3 kids. Who says she couldn't drive a truck? Well, she couldn't plow. She couldn't plow in the winter. Well, yeah, of course.
I understand the situation. I'm looking for solutions as a mayoral candidate.
In hiring, there has to be, if there's going to be a quota system, so be it. Because first of all, you got to start with what you know to what you don't know. If there's X amount of white men that's hired, there's X amount of people of color that hired, there's X amount of women that hired. Let's start from there, then walk our way to things that we don't know. You know.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Kim, there has been a lot of interesting topics that I raised, and the other one that I'm going to give you is also like an important one for Edmonton, because Edmonton has been doing so well in terms of innovation and electronics and AI and all of these things, digital medium. Do you think we can use some of these pluses that we have as a city to, grow our economy in future?
Thank you for that question. I think that's an excellent question. That's actually the reason why I'm running for office, to be Edmonton's next mayor. I have been, since leaving council, I have been living in the innovation and tech space. I started 2 tech companies, co-founded with my husband, and I have been helping and working with tech companies, and we have some amazing technology in Edmonton. So we do have opportunity. We have opportunity in the aerospace industry. We have actually had more tech companies make it into the NASA iTech program than any city globally, which is a pretty big deal and needs to be touted out there. We also have opportunities in the forest technology sector, as well as the agricultural technology sector. And people aren't really paying attention to things like rare earth metals, which power everything from vehicles, all the chips that we use for the grid system. And I see opportunity both in recycling and from our mining expertise. I also see opportunity for us in hydrocarbons, which has been mentioned, the fact that we are looking at a hub in terms of opportunity with some of the hydrocarbon options. I also see opportunity for us if we work with all of our post-secondary students, as well as our post-secondary universities and institutions, to actually work on figuring out what the jobs are of the future. We're starting to do that. You're hearing more positive stories about tech companies, but there is so much more work to do. And to be on a global stage, we need to work with the city of Calgary, with Grand Prairie, with Red Deer, in order to collectively move forward and have more opportunity to create a more dynamic tech sector. But we also need to champion things like Startup TNT, which is helping from a private sector approach. We need to champion what I started with some other folks called BarTech, where we help tech companies get investment and got them in the news. And we can do that by bringing the private sector together and training our own local investors on how to invest in tech companies, and by working as founders of companies to mentor these tech companies. So we're doing that right now. And I have to say, I'm pretty proud of a lot of the things that have been happening in the tech sector, but there's a lot more we can do. And I do feel that there are jobs and opportunity. And if we're going to address things like getting through this pandemic and economic growth, we need to do so through innovation and technology. I mean, we've all been having a vaccine opportunities to get vaccinated because of innovation and technology. But if we're going to solve big problems like climate change, we need to embrace technology and innovation. And that means the city of Edmonton validating and being a test bed for technology and local technology, which we haven't been doing a good job of. And making sure that we don't lose some of these tech companies that can improve our city services, such as Lumacan with their lights. So we have opportunity. And that is one of the reasons why I decided to run to be Edmonton's next mayor, is because I see that opportunity and I want to empower all of us to get out there and seize it. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody's really getting riled up about me not sticking to time limits. Guys, please hold me here. We need to keep time, okay? So I'm going to ask a question to Mr. Sohi. Mr. Sohi, there are some amazing things about our city. A great place to work, a great place to live, a great place to bring up your children. There are some things that we can do better for sure. What are those things that are really pushing you right now? And what are the things that you will put as a priority in your mayoral stint?
Yeah. No, I love Edmonton, and this is a great city to be and raise a family. It is a great city because of the thousands of people who move this city every day, our frontline workers. Close to 14,000 people work for this city who give their best to make this city best. We are the best city because we have health professional, nurses, doctors, store clerks, everyone else who is giving their best to make this city one of the dynamic places. One of the challenges that we're facing now, moving forward, and the interconnected challenges, is how do we continue to create the economic opportunities so people can continue to have a decent, well-paying job that they can raise their family on? How do we make it easy for business to do their business in a convenient way, in an affordable way, that they can continue to grow and create jobs? How do we tackle the crisis of climate change? And how we tackle the social issues around homelessness, mental health, addiction, poverty, racism, inequities that you have talked about? Those things to me are the very prominent things that I want to tackle if I get elected, if I'm given the honor to lead this city. I want to use my experience and my network and my connection to pull the people together, not pull them apart, pull them together and find better ways of working together to tackle those challenges. And that includes our community, that includes our business leaders, that includes our community leagues, that includes our faith leaders, that includes our provincial partners, our federal partners, our regional partners, all of us working together to make sure that Edmonton remains a city of opportunities for all Edmontonians.
Perfect. Thank you. Diana, Um, I'm coming to you with a question on, we would like to increase our economy, and Kim spoke about some of the ways she would like to do that, and they were very valid points. There is one thing that is on my mind. Do you think that we're drawing enough direct investment from tech companies like we should?
From everything I understand so far, we are. I hear we're one of the top attractors in Edmonton for tech. So yes, I think we are so far. I mean, can we improve? Absolutely. But I think so far, so good.
Yeah, actually, it's really nice to see Amazon come in here, and so many new jobs had been created. And I really look forward as a citizen of Edmonton to see much more than Amazon come into Edmonton and provide jobs to people who have lost jobs here. I'm glad to see Rick coming back. I hope he does quickly. So, Mike Oshry, what do you think about the infrastructure of Edmonton, the bottlenecks that we have in different? Of course, when I compare to Calgary, I am so blessed to be here in Edmonton and not driving so long to reach any place. It takes about 20 minutes to get anywhere for me, and I'm so grateful for that. But how do you think we can help our infrastructure grow in a way that's convenient to every part of our city, to every demographic area?
Sure. So, I'm a pretty pragmatic person and a realist, and we're coming through a tough economic time, and we're not going to have nearly the kind of resources that we've had in the years past. And so our, my plan from a transportation standpoint is, I'm agnostic. I don't, if people want to drive their car or take the train or take a bus or ride their bike, we have to provide the proper infrastructure for any mode of transportation. So we need to do that. And then otherwise, as far as my plan goes, is, we're talking a lot about smaller infrastructure, just given the economic realities. So we're not going to have funds for, $300-400 million rec centers. And so our plan is to have community-based infrastructure. So we would put in smaller, an off-leash park or a dog park, or redo a local ice rink and that sort of thing. And that's where I see the infrastructure dollars going to in the next few years, just because practically we're not going to have much more money than that. But also those kind of smaller infrastructure programs can really make a big difference in many different communities around the city. You could put in 30 or 40 of those things around the city for a relatively small amount of capital investment. And these are neighborhoods that have been asking for small infrastructure projects for a decade or more. And so they've been asking, the city's kind of been ignoring them, and now it's time to do that. And so I think we can do that, and that also helps make the city an interesting place to live, because it's not going to be the same everywhere. Neighborhoods are going to decide. We'll get the city councilor to help those neighborhoods decide. And if we want to put in a BMX bike park somewhere, great. If somebody wants to have a dog park, great. And that just makes some interesting things around the city that we can help make the city more interesting, more livable, and have people want to stay here, because ultimately that's what it's all about, is making sure we build a city that people are going to want to live in and grow and raise a family and have a job and affordable housing and all the little things that we need in order to make our city successful. So just again, I keep going back to the words focus and practical. We're going to have a finite amount of resources in the next few years, and we've got to really make some tough decisions, but also some smart decisions.
Thank you, Mike. Brian, we have a beautiful network of community leagues within the city of Edmonton, which is such an amazing thing for the city. It hasn't been utilized like it should. How do you think you can make that happen?
Thanks very much, Mary. Well, I'm not really sure what to do about the community leagues. Like my community league here in Rossdale, they actually changed the constitution like about 20 years ago and made it into a corporation, sort of, instead of being an organization that serves the community. It serves just like it doesn't really provide the community means people coming together, right? It doesn't really do that. So I like what Michael said about putting dollars into building local infrastructure, but I think that to go sort of roundabout to this, like we need financing, we need funding, we need revenue to be able to provide the services that we need in our communities. And that revenue really has to come from the upper levels of government. So I'm a little different than most politicians in the civic politics. Is I think it's really important to speak up about what kind of representatives we're going to elect at the higher levels, because they're the people that are going to be able to give us the money that we need. Like, we've been living in an economy that is mean and cruel, an economy that thrives on cheap labor and low taxes. And that's not the kind of economy I want our city to have. I want to have a caring economy with love and respect for everyone in the planet. So I think, like, here's my pitch. We have a federal election coming up. Elect NDP candidates here in Edmonton, please. Like, the NDP will bring in pharmacare. They'll tax the rich. They'll give us more money for our program.
We are not supposed to be, supporting any other party at this point. This is not.
Why
this is
not?
against the rules of our game here. So I'm sorry, I cannot let you speak that
What
way.
do you mean? Like, I'm not supposed to tell the truth of what I believe and what I think?
No, you cannot support a party. I'm sorry. You cannot do that.
What?
So, yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Thank you so much, Gregg, for your piece. I really, really feel that it's important in leadership to have compassion and to realize that, who are the most vulnerable people and to treat them with dignity. Thank you so much. Rick, I'm so glad to have you back here. Can you hear me, Rick? Doesn't look like it's working. All right, so we've spoken about a lot of things within our city, and one of the things I'm really happy about is the River Valley trails and green areas within our city. It's just beautiful to see like a burgeoning city with huge, transport and everything happening. But beside that, you have beautiful forests where you can breathe easy and you don't have to breathe polluted air. So I love that. I just want to ask Mr. Sohi how he can ensure that every community within Edmonton has access to green spaces.
Absolutely. One thing that we have realized more during COVID is the importance of green spaces, where people could make a connection with each other when we could not meet in other places. We could meet in open places, meet with each other, talk to each other, see each other from distance. So the importance of green spaces is absolutely fundamental. That is why I'm proposing that we would explore working with the federal government to designate our beautiful, beautiful river valley as a national urban park, keeping local control in the council, in the community, making it free and accessible to all of Edmontonians. At the same time, tap into this new funding that's being made available by the federal government to major cities. And this is a concept being explored by municipalities in British Columbia, in Saskatchewan, cities like Winnipeg, Halifax, Montreal, and Edmonton should explore this option, because that will allow us to upgrade the infrastructure, the washrooms, the trails, the biking paths, and everything else that needs to be upgraded in the river valley to keep it a jewel, keep its biodiversity intact, and make it open and accessible to everyone, and keep the local control in Edmontonians' hand, which national urban parks allow us to do so. And along with that, I will work with council members to create green spaces and preserve green spaces throughout the city, because all Edmontonians deserve to enjoy the beauty of our city.
So much, Mr. Sohi, that was beautiful. And as we see like newer spaces, newer areas being developed, we see that green spaces are developed before those, the actual infrastructure goes in. So I'm really happy to see that. Diana, let's speak about crime. The city of Edmonton is not infamous for a lot of things, but yeah, we've had some really terrible things happen over the last few years, and we've seen some attacks on multicultural people, and we don't want our city to be known for those things. How are you going to make sure that police and RCMP and all these like groups can help us to make our city safer for every multicultural person who lives here?
Well, I think what we're facing is a rise in mental health issues. I think that's where our crime is coming from. I think that's where a lot of the hate is coming from. So we need to focus on funding social services properly so that the police and social services can do their jobs appropriately. And I do have faith that as soon as we can get that under control, that we will see a decrease in crime, and these communities that are being targeted, that will also decrease as well.
Wow, that was the short, snappy answer I did not expect. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you one more question. There's been a lot of conversation about police defunding. What is your opinion on that? And what do you think you will do as the mayor with the police?
Yeah, so my opinion on that is, again, to just fund social services properly. I know that they want to take money from the police and transfer it over to social services. So stealing from Peter to give to Paul or whatever, but making sure both of them are funded appropriately. That is my main goal.
Thank you so much. Kim, what do you think about, like this crime situation that we're having in our city? And how can you make it safer for hijabi women and people who are being attacked in different places?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's any place for the rise of racism that we're seeing and the attacks that we're seeing. I've talked to some of the organizations. I went to the rally recently where there was a rally regarding Asian hate crime. There was a rally, obviously, on Muslim hate crime. And in talking to the people on the ground, some of the things that we need to do is strengthen some of our approaches to how we deal with these issues and these crimes. So there is some work happening in that area. But we also need to educate and start talking amongst each other of how all of us can come together. And I'm talking about white, brown, black. We all need to work together in order to speak out and say, this isn't right. And I think part of that is by having a bunch of us, when we do hear that there's an incident happening, that we reach out. I have done that personally, reached out to when I hear about an incident, but I also have been actively attending and learning about what's happening and listening to these groups who are being more adversely affected. And I want to say, having women in particular be attacked, when we talk about this pandemic, women have been more impacted financially than any other group, and women are also facing the brunt of attacks. And I think it's unacceptable. Clearly, enforcement is one factor, but we also need to make it really clear that all of us do not find this acceptable in terms of behavior.
Thank you so much. And I hope there will be some change and Edmonton won't have these issues in future. Cheryl, I just want to ask you about, like the different levels of government. Our communication as a municipality through different levels of government hasn't been the best. How will you change that as a mayor of Edmonton?
Well, that's very true. And that was related to my observation that the mayor needs to be a chief collaborator. We right now, we currently have a fractured relationship with the provincial government, and that's putting all of our citizens at risk because we aren't receiving the funding. We don't have that collaborative partnership where we're working together on some of these really big, complex issues like mental health, like our unhoused community. And so it's really important that we have a good relationship because that's the work that we need to do together. I have experience in this area. And so when I was leading Innovate Edmonton, it was really important that, especially as the capital city, that we were really effective at working with provincial and federal government, no matter which party is in place. And so when I was leading Innovate Edmonton, I worked with originally the NDP government was in power at the time. Later on, we had a government change to the UCP party. And in both of those situations, where we led with was first asking the provincial government what their priorities were, and then sharing our own, because we know that there is going to be some common areas that we can work together on. And so it's early identification of where we have common need, and then identifying the unique role that we can each play in moving those initiatives forward.
Wow, that was so on point. Thank you so much, Cheryl. That is very hopeful. I'm going to ask Mr. Sohi. I don't know whether he's here. Okay. Hi, Mr. Sohi. We feel that, the youth bring a lot of energy into different activities that the council is doing. And I just want to see more collaboration with the youth of our city. We have a lot of very, very intelligent people in our universities. And some of the very good universities. University of Alberta is such a great university around the world. Lots of people, it attracts people from everywhere around the world. So I just want to find out if, as a mayor of Edmonton, you would make sure that you're engaging youth in a different way than it has been done so far.
Oh, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Edmonton's Youth Council. They have been doing some phenomenal work over the last number of decades since they have been established, and they have actually informed a number of city policies, and I want to continue to build on their good work. When I was a member of parliament, I created my own youth council for Millwoods. And as we are developing our platform, we are deeply engaging with the young Edmontonians. And they're the one actually who are telling us that we need to take stronger action on social issues of racism, discrimination, homelessness, mental health, and also take a strong stance that cities needs to play a major role on climate change. They're the one who are telling us that they want to see economic opportunities in the city so they can continue to stay here and build their lives. And through our campaign, we're actually mentoring young people. And as we mentor them, we're putting them in leadership role in the campaign. So we are leading by example to engage young people. And if I elected mayor, I will continue to build on that and the work that has been done in the past. For me, we're building a city for our future generations. We cannot build a city if they're not involved. We need to live up to their expectations. And that's exactly what we have been trying to do during the campaign. And I'm committed to engaging with young people as we lead, if I get the chance to lead this city.
Thank you, Mr. Sohi. That's very hopeful. I think our population of young people is much more than the seniors. However, we have an aging population. And I want to ask Mike Oshry about access to different things for seniors. And especially during this pandemic, many of our seniors experienced food insecurity and they were struggling. So how are you going to make it easier for our seniors?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, by coincidence, I was at a senior residence today, talking to a variety of seniors from a bunch of different communities who have now moved into this one senior residence. So one of the there's a bunch of things the city has a role to play, and I always talk about what the city should be doing and what the city government and what the city really, it's not in their purview to do. But for this issue, there is a role to play for the city government. So number one, we need to create all sorts of housing choices in different communities so people, as they age, can stay in their communities as long as possible and have options for a variety of different housing choices if they want to downsize, etc. And part of that is also then to have senior residences in all the different areas. There's also a lack of seniors meeting places, so senior centers. There's a few in the core of the city spread around the city, but there really aren't many in some of the newer neighborhoods, and there's a lot of people that live in those neighborhoods, and so there really is a lack of those kinds of infrastructure for seniors. And then during COVID, there was obviously there was a lot of seniors were shut in, or they didn't have connections to family and friends, and that's created a lot of problems going forward. And so we have to ensure, pandemic aside, that we have as much supports for seniors so they have connections with the community, connections with friends and family and other seniors. and the city has a role to play there as well. And so when you put all of these things together, there's quite a bit that is lacking. There's lots of services the city does provide, which is good, and other levels of government, which is good. But there are some things that are lacking that we need to do a better job. We talk a lot about the youth, and we talk a lot about building a city for young people. And I want my kids to, who are 18 years old, they're older now. Geez, I'm losing track of time. 20 and 22. I want them to stay here, and I want to build a city that makes them have opportunities, so they're going to want to stay here. But we also need to ensure that our seniors have a high quality of life and all the services that are needed. So I'm going to be talking about that as well going forward.
Thank you. Like wheelchair accessibility and maybe multi-generational housing to support people who are senior.
Yeah,
so
correct.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, housing choices for sure. Thank you.
Diana, climate change is a huge issue, and we have spoken a little bit about it, but I would like you to focus a little bit on that and let me know what you would do as the mayor of Edmonton to improve our climate change initiatives in the city of Edmonton.
Well, I know we have a plan right now to address climate change. So I would stick with that plan and continue to consult with experts on whether or not we need to improve or develop any of those things. I am a huge supporter of defending and protecting our climate, our planet. I am not doing any lawn signs at all. I don't have any merchandise in my campaign. We are trying to do everything electronically. And although we're not thrilled that it's all green technology, that was kind of the best we could do in the circumstances. So you definitely have an advocate in regards to climate change for me.
I'm sure you must be doing recycling at home and teaching your family to do the same.
Of course.
Perfect. Ryan, we spoke about, the having spaces for people who don't have too much money and stuff like that. I just want you to talk a little bit more about, what are the other things we can do to communicate with the people of your city? Like what other things can you do with the new economy, with, lots of stuff happening online, people not getting out of their homes with the epidemic. So what could you do better?
First, before I answer your question, I'm a little confused here. Mary, you cut me off because I was cheerleading for the federal NDP, and I feel like that's impinging on my freedom of speech. And I'm being honest. I'm saying we have a revenue problem. And
I'm sorry, we cannot talk about any other party. It was part of the rules when we started. We cannot speak about any other party. Municipal elections are non-partisan, and we don't speak about any party within the election campaign.
Whose rule is this?
This is a rule that we follow at Ladies' Corner.
I
we
see.
do not support any other. You can support your mayoral candidates. You can say that Kim is a great leader or Mike is a great leader, but within yourselves, you can't blame each other, guilt each other. Or you can't, support a federal party, because that's not allowed within the rules of our game here. Can you just stick to our question now, please?
Well, I like to answer questions, but I don't like the rules. Like, I think that they're unreasonable. It's impinging on my freedom of speech, and I think it's critical that we depend on our funding from the other levels of government. So we should be honest with the voters and say what we think about those other levels of government. But anyway, I object to the rule. I'm just noting my objection, and I don't understand it. But
we can give you a clarification post this interview. But you can just speak a little bit more about how you would have meaningful communication with the people the citizens of Edmonton as a mayor.
I want to try to encourage the city to explore having citizen assemblies where we engage citizens. We randomly pick a bunch of citizens to go out and deal with a certain specific issue and find a solution to it. I feel like like we need solutions to all our problems, and we should turn to the community for it. We shouldn't always be going to experts. Sometimes we need just to consult ordinary people. And citizens councils have been tried in other places in the world, and they've been very successful. So that's one thing that I would do. And as I mentioned before, we just absolutely need more free gathering spaces where people can gather and talk about the issues that matter to us, because using like foreign firms, technological firms to communicate, like we use Facebook, Google, Twitter, and everything, like it's not the best way to communicate. It's better if we can communicate face to face. Even this way of communicating is a little bit better, but it's not. If we were in a meeting in a room, it would, or out in the open, it would be much better. So that's what I would say, is that we need to really look at building opportunities for people to. And the other thing is, people need the time to do it. People need time, and so we have to get away from this, like people having to work 2 jobs and not having any time to have a social life or a family life. We have to get away from this mean economy that we have built on cheap labor and low taxes. People need to get a reasonable wage for the work that they do. So that's how I would deal with it. I would encourage people to the city to make more spaces available for people to engage, and encourage an economy where people have the time to engage.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you.
Going back to Cheryl, we see that we are much more in an online economy than we were about 15 years ago. And it's more and more, we are being boxed into our little spaces, and we have the whole world in front of us, but we are still in our small little spaces. So how do we make the best of the situation? During the pandemic, everybody moved on to Zoom and, platforms like StreamYard to communicate with people. What do you think is the future?
Well, I think that the digital enablement, if you will, is probably what I would classify that. I think that COVID really forced all of us really to become a little bit more comfortable with operating this way. And what I'm hopeful about is that we really think about this as an opportunity to think about different ways that we can leverage digital platforms, technology, and so I'm hopeful that as a city of Edmonton, we're going to think about different ways that we can rely on digital platforms, communication platforms like this, to perhaps open up our municipal government a little bit more. And so you're asking Brian some questions around how do we bring community in? How do we have better engagement with citizens and residents of this city? And I would love to see us using digital platforms a little bit more to allow Edmontonians to really have a better, deeper understanding of the role that their municipal government plays, more interactive opportunities. And so that's really my hope, is that we can come back, to more physical interactions again, and so that we have the opportunities to engage, but we have more of a hybrid environment where we're really leveraging these new tools that we are all more comfortable with.
Thanks, Cheryl. That's so true. I truly believe that the way to go would be the hybrid mechanism, where people who don't prefer could have an option to meet face-to-face based on their time schedule. But there should be an opportunity for those who don't have time to interact in a digital way, and to be able to make sure that somebody, sorry?
I want to build on that, Mary, because I think that that's a great point. Is that while we have had in the past opportunities that we can show up at city council meetings and we can speak and advocate on issues and topics that are important to us, we know that opportunity is really tricky if you're a far distance from downtown, if you're not able to book the entire day off work so that you can go and wait in the queue. And so this digital opportunity really provides more accessibility to our municipal government.
Perfect. That's so true. Malik is back, so I'm going to ask him a question. What would it be like to have a mayor in office who is who's from the BIPOC community for the very first time, what do you think would be your challenges?
I don't know. Born and raised here. I don't know what might be my challenges, but I love the city for sure. And I have a disdain for politicians, and I don't know why. I think there's a lot of talk and no actions. As an engineer, I don't have that luxury. It's either I get it right or I'm out of the door. But politicians get to make mistakes to come back the next day or say, well, it's the other guy's problem. You have to reelect me to fix that problem. So, and it bothers me because I'm a straightforward person. I say, I speak my heart. And because I don't have to necessarily be a politician to make a living, I'm comfortable financially where I'm at. But I've traveled around the world. I've seen how all the cities has been. And then when I get into the airport and get home here, it bothers me. And my daughter says, well, when she graduates, she doesn't want to live here. And I don't like that idea. And that's one of the reasons, apart from the corruption with the city and all the politics that they play, the city of Edmonton, all the games, that all the red tapes, all the managers in the office have to go through a bunch of them to have a street paved or built or have a sidewalk widened. So we have to go through all this, go through council. Council doesn't agree with this, and the city manager don't like this. Then he gives the contract to some company that doesn't know what they're doing. Yeah, I don't know. I think Obama overcame so much. I think when you go in there and you do what's right for the people, I don't think the color of your skin matters or where you came from matters. I think you surround yourself with the right people. I don't care. I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care where you come from. You love the city. You want to walk with me. You walk with me. And if you can do your job, I mean, I want people to, that could do the job. The mayor of London, England, has done a great job. And we have to, this oil isn't going to run forever. We have to diversify the economy. We have to invest in tourism. We have to invest in our people. We have to invest in skilled workers. Everyone doesn't have to be an engineer like me or a doctor or whatever. But there's a few companies that are hiring, and they need a ski stair operator. They need a Zoom boom operator. They need a paver operator. If you don't have that skills, you just don't have a job, and you'll be poor. But how will the city step in and help guys be able to get their ticket, get their training, be able to get those jobs? That's what's important. If investors want to invest in the city, they want to have, people that are skilled, people who can actually do the job. So we don't have that, So I don't think the color of my skin or where it came from would be a problem. People said I have an accent. I'm fine. It's when you speak 6 different languages, I'm sure you have an accent. Like,
thank you so much, Mr. Malik. I loved your answer. You just get straight to the point. I love that. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask Kim. Our city of Edmonton has never had a female mayor. So if you get this position, what are the kind of things that you'll have to deal with, and how do you think you will be primed to do that? Please unmute yourself.
Good question, Mary. Although I will point out that we did have a female mayor in Edmonton, and that was Jan Reimer back in the...
I'm so sorry. My bad.
No, okay. But I thought I'd mention that because I do want people to know that we have had a female mayor. And I think that the next mayor of Edmonton, as I said earlier, we're in pivotal times. We're in challenging times. I think the pandemic is unprecedented, and we don't know what our fiscal situation is fully going to be. And we aren't going to have the resources we've had in the past. So male or female, I believe that the next mayor is going to face some really serious challenges. They're going to need to work with the councillors that get elected to build a team. They're going to need to empower all of us in the city to get involved and active in order to overcome what I think are going to be not just challenging in terms of business and having jobs and opportunity, but challenges in terms of making decisions in terms of what businesses we should be in. So I think that the female politicians in general, they do face some bigger challenges in the sense that we do get, unfortunately, attacked more in social media by the trolls, but I've been there in the past as a city councilor representing north of Edmonton, and I've dealt with them in the past, and I don't let things like that get me distracted from what I do get excited about, which is working on different ways to empower women, such as financial empowerment, which we did with Women in Money, or working with women in our City of Edmonton Youth Council, or working and empowering women to run for political office. And I just want to do a shout out the fact that we do have 3 women running for mayor. I think that that's a testament to the fact that, and we have a number of female politicians running for city council. So I think that's a testament to the fact that there is change, that women bring a new dynamic to both politics and boards and in business. And coming from the tech sector where there aren't as many CEO females, I can tell you that we're seeing a lot more younger women getting entrepreneurial and getting out there and interested. And I think that that's exciting for all of us.
Thank you, Kim. Truly very hopeful. Diana, you know that the pandemic has hit a lot of our small businesses within our city, and many of them went down under. We know that a lot of unemployment has happened post the pandemic. You know, we really need some serious measures to bring back, you know, these people's normalcy to their lives, and especially a boost to our small business sector. So how are you going to, as a mayor, support this sector?
Well, we need to encourage everybody to shop local right now, especially. That is important. We know Amazon has a place, but there is a dedicated clientele to small business and medium business here in Edmonton. We need to try to entice those who sit on the fence to maybe spend their money locally instead of going through Amazon where they can. I can tell you that I have a compassionate heart, so I don't know that I know the full answer to this yet, but I am the person who will do everything I possibly can to help those people. I don't want anyone to suffer here in our city. So yeah, just doing the best I can to help those citizens and help them rebuild their companies, or guiding them in a different direction if that's necessary as well.
Thank you so much, Diane. Mike, I just want to go to you with, why do you think you're the best candidate for the City of Edmonton's mayor position?
You know, this is the first time in a generation, as I'm apt to say these days, it's the first time in a generation that we really are uncertain as to where our economic and our social successes are going to come from. And we're going to need a very strong mayor who's got some experience at city council, which is imperative, and has a business experience, which obviously I do, small, medium, and large, and knows the challenges of what it's like to work with the city. And, you know, I come from a smaller government viewpoint. You know, right now the city government is trying to do everything for everybody. And, you know, my view is quite different than Amarjeet's actually. And Amarjeet, I think, and he might answer this, but, you know, his view is that government really is the one who should be creating jobs, and government is the one who should be doing things for most people. And I'm the view that government should be from the bottom up, and we need to get out of the way of nonprofits, get out of the way of the private sector, and let them succeed. And we need to go to the private sector and nonprofits and cultural groups and say, look, how can we help you succeed? And what can we do as a government to, within the rules, of course, but what can we do to allow you to build the city and do whatever you want to do, obviously within reason. And so, you know, when you add that to the fact that I have a good relationship with the vast majority of city council, who I know from being there, or the ones that are there since I left, I've gotten to know over the last couple of years, and the fact that I'm going to be able to make some really strong, smart, and really difficult, let's face it, difficult decisions, and be able to say no sometimes, I think puts me in the forefront of what I think the city needs, and ultimately the citizens of the city will decide that. So thank you very much for that question.
Thank you. Mr. Sohi, Mike raised some ideas that you had put forward. Would you like to challenge that?
Oh, first of all, I appreciate that Michael Oshry acknowledged that I have created jobs through my work as a city councillor and my work as
Actually, your
minister.
audio is very low. So if you can increase somehow the
Yeah.
volume.
So are you able to hear me now?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that Mike has acknowledged that I worked hard to create jobs when in my role as a city councillor, in my role as a member of parliament, in my role as a minister of infrastructure and communities. And many of those jobs were actually in the private sector. When you look at the yellowhead being expanded, who's working in their construction companies, right? When I look at the Trans Mountain Pipeline Expansion Project, thousands of jobs being created, who's working in their private companies. Like when I look at LRT expansion in Millwoods, in West End, into possibly future into Castletown if I get elected, or the work that we will do in Lewis Estate Rec Center if I get to lead this city. All those investments create private sector jobs. At the same time, I am so proud of our public sector employees. They are the one who have sacrificed the most during this pandemic, and they deserve our respect. They drive our economy. We should never, ever turn public sector against the private sector because we all complement each other. We all supplement each other. We all build on each other's strengths. So public sector jobs, I'm very proud of. The private sector jobs that we have created, I'm very proud of. Look forward to working with the business leaders, making doing business in our city easy, affordable, and convenient. I'm so proud of the work that we have done in the past and look forward to continue to create economic opportunities for all Edmontonians.
Thanks, Mr. Sohi. Let me go to Brian. So within our city, there are some challenges that we have already spoken about. Are there any other challenges that you see that none of us have ever mentioned before?
Well, there's a couple of things. Thank you very much, Mary. I guess maybe Diana Steele touched on this a little bit about doing things locally, but I really think we need to develop a repair industry in our city. That will really help us have local industry and be more efficient and cause less waste and therefore less burning and have a better impact on meeting the challenge of the climate emergency. So that's one thing is encouraging to have a repair industry in our city instead of throwing everything in the dump when one tiny part of it breaks. And then the other thing is, I feel that we should be trying to develop the agriculture industry in the regions around our city. We should work with the regions around our city so that we can have more food self-sufficiency. That we should try to ask the federal and the provincial governments, no matter who they may be electing, to fund programs to build a greenhouse industry, agriculture industry circling our city where we can produce a lot of our fruits and vegetables ourselves. And in the first stage of this kind of a development, power it with natural gas, which we have in abundance. But in second stage, transform that into a green energy powered industry. So those are the two things: the repair industry and self-sufficient agricultural greenhouse industry, like they do in Holland.
Thank you so much, Brian. I totally am on board with those things. And I actually think that there should be greenhouses set up in different parts of our city so that community can have some of their own plantations. And I've seen it in some areas, but I've not seen it in many. I mean, there are many areas that could, use a greenhouse. So I have one question for Diana. The property taxes have been just going rampant. It's been rising for so many years, and we've not seen any abatement to that. What do you think, as a mayor, you can do to help people to manage within, their resources? Because right now there's a lot of unemployment, lots of businesses are struggling. So the property taxes are really just too much for people to handle.
So sorry, can you rephrase the question. Are you asking me how to help them with their finances?
No, I'm just asking you that, is it going to continue like that if you become the mayor, or are you going to, do something about the increasing property taxes?
Well, I don't think now would be the time to do any property taxes over certainly the next 2 to 4 years. We need to recover from the pandemic. We do know that people are suffering. So absolutely, we cannot do any property tax increases right now, but we need to find ways to cut spending, because without property taxes, how are we still continuing to fund the services that we need in Edmonton? Like Michael has said, we've got some difficult work ahead of us.
Yeah, for sure. To make some tough choices about where the money is going that you have, and maybe cut down on some of the unimportant or not so important areas.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask Malik about the funding to the police. Is that an area that you think that some efficiencies can be built, and if possible, how?
My conversation with Chief Dale and the police union there, they need lots of help. Unfortunately, Iverson have not been fond of the police department. And I don't know why. When they told me that, I was shocked. I couldn't believe that. But whatever the case would be, we touched on so many issues with the gun violence, drive-by shooting, minority women being attacked, and Black Lives Matter issues, and what creates this issues. And I don't think we'll remove any money from the police department. Probably not the right person to do that. When you come to Black Lives Matter, I believe all life matter. I don't want to go into that rabbit hole and fight those wars. I believe what Martin Luther King did in 1963-64 was the right thing to do. You need coalition. You need people to work with. Everyone's life matter, and the police shootings and police brutality, those things are things that if I become mayor, for sure, I will sit with the police chief and have a candid conversation with the police chief on those areas. I mean, there's also statistics you can look at. Whites are also, we touched issues in the United States anyways, it's out of this, but sometimes minorities tend to complain about being mistreated by the police. I think in general, police, some police department require training, and some of them go through all kinds of psychological issues, PTSD. They're just human beings like us. They go through divorce, they have child support payment. The schedule is not good. He has to work in the morning, have to work a night shift, and they have to deal with certain issues they're not trained to deal with. So to remove funding from the police, I'm probably not the right person to do that. But I want to touch on something that Mike had talked about a business person having the ideas and what it takes to run the city. That's not true. Most presidents of the United States did not come from business, and most prime ministers here did not come from business background. I think it takes someone that has the courage and the will to do the right thing. There's a whole lot of people that have ideas but don't want to do anything about it. So you could be, you could choose not to care. You could go in there to, to carry on with whatever you want to do. I mean, I'm a country manager for the third largest oil company in the world for 7 years in the Middle East. I wasn't there just because they like a black guy to be a country manager there. There's a reason why I was there for 7 years. So you have to make money for investors and revenues and increase the portfolio. So when he talks about business and he has the best ideas, kind of funny to me. But because he was in the council for 4 years and then he threw his hands in the air, he wasn't happy, it was frustrating, it was long hours. I read quite a bit of some of the interviews he gave to journalists, and I wasn't really impressed that he threw a fit like a kid after one term as a councillor, and now he wants to come back and be a mayor. If you can handle being a councillor for one term, why would you want to be a mayor of Edmonton?
I don't think that's in very good light, Malik. I would
Well,
not be very happy about you
when he
saying bad
talked
things
about
about other
Sohi, he
candidates.
attacked Sohi. He talked about Sohi, and I think someone had to jab him a little bit. I have nothing against Mike, but it's all done in good faith. You know, I don't think we're here.
It's important as candidates to support each other. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
we're
Malik.
supporting each other. Yeah, but we don't have to throw, try to, talk about. I'm not perfect. I'm sure so he's not. Diane is not. I like Diane very well, and if I wasn't running, I probably will support either Diane, Cheryl Watson, or Krushell. My wife is is very fond of these women, and
Thank you
yeah,
so much. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
So, as the mayor of Edmonton, Cheryl, what is the first thing that you will do in office?
First, I'm curious, Malik, is your wife watching?
Yes, she is. Yeah.
Good. I'm Malik's wife.
She's just sitting over there. She's not a very public politically, but inside,
Okay.
yeah, Krushell, Cheryl Watson, Diane,
Great.
blah blah blah. I'm like, all right, cool.
Let her
Maybe
know.
I should
Let
drop
her know
out and
that
bring some support.
the three of us are working
Sohi,
very hard to earn her
Sohi,
vote.
everyone that's running, I have so much love for them. I believe we all have the best interests at heart for the city, and I have nothing against anybody. But once we start to jab each other, yeah, I could jab as well. I could be very blunt, but yeah, because I'm not a typical politician. I don't know how to mix all these words. I'm straight to the point. I don't care who the person is, but
Thank
that's
you,
how
Malik.
that's
We
how.
have to allow other candidates to,
Thank you
speak.
very much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, Cheryl, can you please answer the question?
Well, it's a big question that you're asking, and all of us have our own collective priorities as we represent the citizens of this city. And I've appreciated a number of comments that other candidates have made about bringing council together. I think that that's really an important first step, because a lot of council, I hope many, will have been serving for a number of years. So they're going to really bring a lot of important experience, institutional knowledge, I like to call it. And so I think that that's really important, to bring those veteran councils together and then bring new, fresh perspective that new councillors are going to bring. And so really creating this culture of collaboration, I think, is really, really important. The second thing that I believe is important is to think about how we can infuse and bring more of a yes and culture to our city. And I've heard a lot of the conversations that we've had today, and I've heard from a number of residents and business owners that at times feel like our city is a little bit too restrictive, a little bit too stuck in our ways, a little bit too focused on the problems or red tape at times. And so I really want to bring a yes and mentality that really embraces fresh perspective, that really embraces this viewpoint of what the resident experience is, and really creating a great resident experience here. It's about creating a great city, and that means a great city government.
Thank you so much. That's so true. I think creating that synergy, that consensus would be the first step for sure. Mr. Sohi, I have a question for you. There is a lot of hope that, some of the candidates here might actually land up in that wonderful seat. But what if, the chance that, you don't make it? There are situations where, like, I have seen candidates who don't make it to the position, demeaning or undermining the work that the selected candidate does. And I don't want to see that. So I'm just putting this question out there for whoever doesn't make it to this position, not just to you, Mr. Sohi.
I have always worked on behalf of Edmontonians, and I will continue to put Edmontonians first in whatever I do. And I look forward to whoever gets elected, if I don't get elected, working with that new mayor to continue to build the city where we all feel that we belong, right? I deeply love Edmonton. This is a city that has given me so much, and this is a city filled with potential. I'm ready to work hard to untap that potential. I'm ready to work with the new council if I get elected. I think what Edmonton needs is someone with experience, someone who has the right temperament to work and listen to people, someone who doesn't quit when things get tough, someone who has a relationship with the regional partners, with the provincial governments, with the federal government, who can actually pull people together. And I have done that in my work. I have never quit, and I will never quit. I will continue to serve my city, whichever role that I'm given. So thank you so much, Mary, for that question and the opportunity to answer that.
That was such a perfect answer. Thank you so much, Mr. Sohi. And I just want to wish each one of you the best in this campaign. And as you go door knocking and you're really hearing what people are saying, I hope you will work to eliminate some of those challenges that people are facing in the city of Edmonton. And I'm so grateful to all of you for coming out today and sharing your perspectives with the audience of Ladies Corner Canada. Thank you so much. And all the best for October 18th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.